In Warframe, we can have multiple versions of the same gun. And when we hear Prime, Vandal, Prisma, Wraith, we're thinking of upgraded versions of the base weapon. But with the Opticor, things took a bit of a different turn. Hey guys, hello and welcome back. As always, my name is Leyzar, and today we're going to be diving deeper into this Mastery Rank 14 primary weapon, the Opticor Vandal. I'm going to be covering something cheap, something affordable that anybody can build, but of course we also have the classic endgame setup with a Riven. That said, please keep in mind that my builds and guides follow a new player-friendly approach, simply because there's a lot of info here and I want anybody watching to understand how the weapon functions and how it should be built. So in case you're a veteran and you already know most of this stuff, please bear with me. And with that out of the way, let's jump into the Opticor Vandal. Let's begin by taking a look at how the weapon handles, then we're going to be jumping into a stat comparison with the normal version. The Opticor is a photon cannon and each shot needs to be charged up. Now you have the option to fully charge the weapon, at which point it will automatically discharge, and there is no way to hold the shot in like you can do in the case of the Lanka, for example. What you can also do is release a halfway shot of sorts, but it will be dealing roughly half the damage, in case you need rapid fire and the enemies are low level. Now there's also an explosion at the point of contact. I'm not sure if you can pick this one up. The area is about 3 meters and the explosion deals more damage towards the center and less towards the edges. And that's pretty much it. Now let's see how it stacks up against the regular version of the Opticor. First of all, the accuracy is 100. The weapon is fully viable for heavy caliber without having the need to worry about the accuracy penalty. The charge rate saw a massive buff, 0.6 seconds instead of 2.0 seconds. So it is no longer mandatory that you have fire rate on the Opticor, at least not from my point of view. You also get an increase on the critical chance, 4% extra, and 4% might not seem like a lot because it's not a lot, but if you take into account point strike alone, you're looking at 12% after modding. Crit multi also saw a small increase, a 0.1 increase. Fire rate is 2 instead of 1, but of course you do have to deal with that charge rate. Magazine of 8 instead of 5, so less reloading and faster reloading thanks to the 1.4 seconds reload speed instead of 2.0. Status chance also saw a massive buff, up to 30% instead of 20%, and considering that normally you use the Opticor for a one-shot affair, that status chance can be attractive or it cannot be depending on how you look at things. Now the big nerf, 60% less damage. Yeah, 60% less damage. The layout is pretty much the same, but we are doing a whole lot less with each and every shot. The question would be, are all the other buffs worth this huge nerf on the damage? And that's what we're going to be finding out today. I have 3 builds which I want to show you guys, and these will serve as base builds that you can work off of. Nothing is set in stone in Warframe, at least. Now go for as much damage as you can with Serration and heavy caliber, don't worry about the accuracy penalty. However, if you choose to go for Chroma, especially Selfish Chroma, then you can forget about damage mods and just focus more on elemental damage. Critical chance and critical damage with point strike and vital sense, and of course multi-shot with split chamber. Now these 5 mods are mandatory from my point of view. Unless you have a Riven, then we can talk about swapping out heavy cal. Now I'm going to be using vigilante armaments as well, and I'm fully aware that some of you guys don't see the value in this one. You think it's a pretty weak mod, but take a look at it another way. With split chamber alone, you got a 10% chance per shot at getting all this wonderful damage just once. But with vigilante armaments on, you have a guaranteed second beam, therefore all the damage twice, plus a 50% chance at a third beam out of the Opticor. Do not underestimate multi-shot. Next, elemental damage, and elemental damage should be applied depending on your own circumstances. Where are you going? Who are you fighting? I still like to play the Opticor for the one-shot affair, one big wallop worth of damage, and of course for an approach such as that, you're going to be going with the 90 mods over the 60 mods. Whether you should go for the 60s or the 90s will depend on the level of content that you're doing. Perhaps you're going over level 100, you want to stay a couple of hours into a survival and you want to use the Opticor, which I wouldn't recommend, to be honest, but in that case go for the 60 mods, as you will be needing those status procs. Just keep in mind the IPS rules in Warframe. Impact, Puncture and Slash have a 4 times greater chance at proccing over elemental types such as Corrosive, and the Puncture on the Opticor is sky high. If I multiply this times 4 is over 12,000, so I'm going to be getting a whole lot of Puncture procs. Now, Puncture damage is pretty good against heavily armored targets since it has a bonus. However, the proc it has is reducing the damage the enemy deals, so bear that one in mind. What about some additional fire rate? Is it still worth on the Vandal? And I gotta say yes, especially for lower level content. Now, if I go for vial acceleration, which is still my favorite, we're looking at a charge rate of 0.32. What am I giving up for that? One mod slot plus that 50% minus damage. Now, if you don't know how to farm corrupted mods, link in the cards right now. That minus 15% damage looks a whole lot scarier than it actually is. Think of it as taking 15% away from your heavy caliber or something like that. Now this is the initial build we're going to be testing, and again, fire rate is entirely optional. Now, I don't really mean to break the fourth wall, but my wife just called me to dinner, so we need to hurry up and get this done with. Level 120 corrupted heavy gunners, and you will see that I'm able to, wow, nice, spam the weapon a whole lot faster than I would with a normal Opticor. And it still packs quite a hefty punch, but I gotta say, you don't really get those super high crazy numbers anymore. But don't misunderstand, it doesn't really matter how much damage you are doing with a single shot if you're hitting heavily armored targets, because your damage will be getting decreased by a percentage, which is why Grineer in general are some of the toughest targets in Warframe, with Sentience not counting. The weapon handles a whole lot more efficiently than before, so I'm less discouraged to pick it up from mission to mission, because let's be honest, the Opticor is an iconic weapon, that big boom damage that it does, but a whole lot of players didn't use it simply because it is kinda uncomfortable to use for a game that is as fast as Warframe. For an MR14 weapon, this is a decent result with a standard build, nothing expensive and all whatnot, but let's switch it up to Hunter munitions and see if we can do any better. Now my Hunter munition setup includes Arcane Scope, which is a tad expensive, sorry about that. On the PC trade chat you're looking at about 150-ish plat and bladed rounds for more critical damage. Now even with the buff from Arcane Scope up, we still don't get a guaranteed critical chance. For that you'll still need a damn Riven. Hunter munitions will be providing our slashes, and we drop vigilante armaments plus the 2 elemental mods. Now you have an option to build it with viral damage as well. I know a lot of you guys like viral damage, but I don't think it's really worth it, especially if you have Arcane Scope. The weapon is a bit more efficient like this. If you choose to go for viral, then use the Toxin 6060 plus Prime cryo rounds if you have it at your disposal. Now I did a couple of shots in the target and we're looking at 13,774 bleeds, but that was without bladed rounds. But I still need a slash. You see the issue here, sometimes I'm getting a single shot on the target because I no longer have vigilante armaments. And if that's not a crit, then I'm in trouble. If it is a crit, even then I have only a 30% chance per crit to apply a slash. The value of the high slashes, the yellow slashes, are 21,000 plus, so it is a pretty high slash, fully capable of annihilating corrupted heavy gunners even at this high level. Now from a DPS perspective, fine, let's bring in DPS. Paper damage, this is better, okay? In terms of paper DPS, this is better, so if you're looking for the optimal build, I would encourage you to look into Hunter munitions with Arcane Scope or a viral setup, depending if you have Arcane Scope or not. The weapon is a lot more viable than before with Hunter munitions, simply because you get that measly 4% extra critical chance. But now it's time for what everybody came here to see, a Riven setup. And this one is not mine, so don't hate on me, it's just a loaner from a viewer. Opticor Acri Visicron with critical damage, critical chance, damage, and minus zoom. Honestly, it's hard to get a Riven better than this one, but I would encourage you to prioritize multi-shot after you get your 100% critical chance. Even like this, I'm only looking at 97.8. You know what? I can live with that. And of course, we're still using bladed rounds. Now let's see what a crazy Riven can do on this outstanding weapon. If you're looking for stat priority on the Riven, you're looking at critical chance up to 100%, multi-shot and critical damage with a harmless negative. That would be, from my point of view, the ideal Riven. Take a look at that. Oh my god. 42,000 slash on the target, and the weapon can be absolutely insane thanks to the Riven disposition of 4. And of course, I can spam it. I'm going kind of slow so you guys can see the numbers and all whatnot. Yes, thanks very much. A Riven disposition of 4, a godly Riven makes a huge difference in a weapon. Who would have thunk it? I know, but the point is to highlight exactly what the weapon could do. Now, there's one more thing that we can do, is bump up everything with Warframe buffs. And for that, we can use Harrow, we can use Mirage, we can use whatever we want to. And I'm going to be using Mirage for this case, because I like her buffs and all whatnot. As for an aura, you can use corrosive projection if you know you're going to be fighting Grenier, but in the case of the Opticor, what you can also use is Rifle Amp, 27% extra damage, and the base damage of the Opticor is still rather high, so this will provide a decent benefit. It's an aura, so everybody in your party will be receiving this benefit, and it is stackable times 4. What you can also do is go into Arcanes. Now these are a bit more impactful. What you can go for is damage with Arcane Rage. Are free. Now this one is fairly inexpensive. I think on the trade chat you're looking at about 50 to 60 plat for the R free. On headshot you got a 10% chance for plus 120% damage to primary weapons for 16 seconds plus the usual 1 arcane revive. Now keep in mind that the beam of the Opticor is rather fixed, so what you want to do is aim above enemies' heads and you're gonna have no problem in getting your headshots. And this will be one. And the second, what, you didn't want to? Why didn't you want to? Okay, and for the second one, we're going to be going with Arcane Avenger. Now, this is a 30% critical chance boost bonus additive after, which means it stacks on top of what you already have. With this one active, I'm going to be going about 128% crit chance, so we're in orange territory and all whatnot. You can also go for some increased fire rate with Arcane Acceleration, but again, that depends on your own circumstances and what exactly you're trying to get out of it. Last time I tested the Opticor, I used Harrow, but this time I can't resist not using the clone and getting a whole bunch of beams. Now let's see, with full Warframe buffs, what can we get? Absolute mayhem and destruction. Take a look at this. Oh, that was so good. The Opticor still is a fantastic weapon, and the Vandal should have been an increase, a upgrade, because normally when we get Vandal weapons or Prime weapons, Prisma, Wraith and so on and so forth are direct upgrades to their normal counterparts. This is not the case with the Opticor Vandal, however. This is what you would call a side grade, a reimagining of the weapon. Again, the weapon was infamous, let's say. You know that the Opticor deals a whole lot of damage, but most players felt discouraged to pick this one up from mission to mission simply because it is slow and clunky. I can't say I like this reimagining of the Opticor. I like the old Opticor that I never used. Sounds weird, doesn't it? Again, it's totally up to you. From my point of view, the weapon does pack quite the big wallop. I like the direction they're going in with the Opticor Vandal, but I think they simply overdid it with a 60% damage nerf. If they could tone it down to 40%, that would be a whole lot better from my point of view. And just so I'm clear in what I'm asking for a 50% damage buff on the base damage of the Opticor Vandal. And that's gonna do it for the review. As always, my name has been Leyzar. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like, favorite, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. If you got any feedback for me, by all means, leave it in the comment section down below. Also in the comment section down below if you want to request a specific weapon review. Now in all honesty, I can't really promise you that it will be done by next time or even within a week, but I can promise you that I will be reading through each and every comment. You can find me on Twitch, Facebook, Twitter, all the usual places. Until next time guys, bye bye!